It wasn't a quiet morning. Quiet is when the birds are still sleeping and the village hasn't stirred. This was something else entirely. This was silence. A complete, total absence of sound. The kind of silence that presses in on you, thick and heavy like a blanket, making the air feel solid in your lungs. I woke up to it, this profound emptiness, and the first thing I noticed was that my own breathing made no noise. It was a terrifying discovery, feeling the air move in and out of my chest, but hearing nothing, as if I had become a ghost in my own body. Our village had never known a moment of silence. It was a tapestry woven from constant, comforting sound. We lived in a small, rural community nestled in a valley, a place where everyone knew not just your name, but your father's name and your grandmother's favorite song. Life was a symphony of overlapping noises, a beautiful chaos that told you everything was as it should be. You could close your eyes and know exactly what was happening just by listening. That was our home. The day before had been a perfect example of this vibrant life. I remember it so clearly now, replaying it in my head like a precious, lost memory. The marketplace had been a cacophony of sound. Vendors shouting their prices, chickens clucking in their cages, the rhythmic thud of a blacksmith's hammer from the edge of the square. Children, myself included, had been running through the dusty paths, our laughter echoing off the old stone walls. The elders sat on their porches, their hushed conversations a constant, gentle murmur, like a river flowing through the heart of the village. It was a normal day, beautifully, wonderfully normal. When I went to bed, the world was still humming with its usual lullaby. The evening chorus of crickets had started up, a sound so familiar I barely registered it. I could hear Mrs. Gable next door singing her baby to sleep, her voice a soft, wavering melody. The distant bark of a dog, the rustle of leaves as a breeze swept down from the mountain, the faint clatter of someone washing their dinner plates. These were the sounds of safety, the sounds that told you the world was turning and you were a part of it. I fell asleep cocooned in that familiar sonic warmth, never imagining it could be stolen away. But it was. When I opened my eyes, the silence was the first thing that hit me, but the sight was even more jarring. My mother was standing by the stove, a wooden spoon halfway to the pot, her expression one of mild concentration. She wasn't moving, not breathing, not blinking, just frozen. Outside my window, I saw Mr. Henderson in his garden, a carrot halfway out of the earth, his back bent in a permanent state of effort. The world had become a gallery of living statues. I scrambled out of bed, my bare feet making no sound on the wooden floor, and ran outside. The scene was surreal, a nightmare painted in broad daylight. Everywhere I looked, life had been paused. A group of men sat around a table, their hands holding playing cards, their laughter frozen on their faces. A woman was captured mid-gesture, her hand raised, food on a fork just inches from her open mouth. It was horrifyingly detailed, a perfect snapshot of a moment that should have passed in a second but was now locked in eternity. Even the animals were caught in this temporal trap. A dog, one I knew well for its boisterous barking, was suspended in the air, its paws tucked under it in the middle of a joyful leap to catch a thrown stick. The stick itself hung in the air just ahead of its nose. Chickens were frozen on their roosts, heads cocked. Everything was still. In the market square, the stalls stood open, their vibrant arrays of fruits and vegetables untouched, as if their owners had simply vanished in the blink of an eye. The most unsettling detail was the smoke. Plumes of it rose from the chimneys of breakfast fires, but they didn't drift or dissipate. They were stuck, solid columns of gray fog hanging in the air like strange, twisted sculptures. A strange tingling sensation on my arm drew my attention. I looked down and gasped. A glowing mark had appeared on my left wrist. It was a complex, swirling sigil, pulsing with a faint, silvery light. It wasn't there when I went to sleep. I touched it, and a warmth spread through my hand, the only thing I had felt that seemed truly real since waking. As I stared at the sigil, my gaze drifted to the ground, and my heart nearly stopped. The shadows weren't still. My mother's shadow, cast on the floor by the morning sun, was long and still. But the shadow of the frozen baker across the street, it was moving. It writhed and stretched slowly, independent of the body that cast it, like a separate, living entity made of darkness. All the shadows were doing it, writhing like slugs on the sun-baked earth. A new sensation pricked my ears, a sound so faint it was more of a feeling, a vibration in my teeth. It was a low, almost subaudible humming. It seemed to be pulling me, a gentle but insistent tug on my senses. I followed it, my eyes wide with a mix of terror and a desperate need for answers. The humming grew stronger as I walked through the silent, frozen crowd, leading me directly toward the village center, to the old stone well that had provided water for generations. Floating just above the well was a giant sphere of pure, white light. It was impossibly bright, yet it didn't hurt my eyes to look at. It pulsed gently, the source of the humming that now filled the air. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Without thinking, driven by an impulse I didn't understand, I reached out my hand, the one with the glowing mark, and touched its smooth, warm surface. The moment my fingertips made contact, the world lurched. Sound and motion returned in a sudden, violent burst. The dog landed, the spoon hit the pot. A collective gasp of 100 people filled the air. But it lasted only for a second, a heartbeat of restored time. In that single, fleeting moment, a chorus of voices, every man, woman, and child in the village, whispered a single, urgent sentence that seemed to echo directly inside my mind. Don't let it choose you. And then, just as quickly, everything froze again. The silence slammed back into place. The world returned to its static tableau. The impossible truth crashed down on me. I was the only one awake, the only one moving, because I hadn't been chosen. The glowing mark on my wrist wasn't a brand. It was an exemption. They were trapped, and I was their only hope. But what could I do? My eyes fell again to the writhing shadows on the ground. They seemed to be moving with more purpose now, all slowly, inexorably slithering away from the village center and toward the dark line of trees at the edge of the valley. The forest. To free everyone, I understood with a chilling certainty, I had to follow them. The woods that had been my playground now looked menacing, the trees seeming taller, the shadows between them deeper and more absolute than I had ever seen. It felt like a different place, an ancient, alien woodland that had swallowed the one I knew. Taking a deep, soundless breath, I stepped off the path and followed the dark, creeping shadows into a place that suddenly felt much darker and deeper than it had any right to be. The forest was a maze of black trunks and unnaturally still leaves. The moving shadows were my only guide, leading me deeper into the oppressive quiet. After what felt like an eternity, I came to a small clearing. There, suspended between two ancient, gnarled oaks, was a second sphere. This one was different. It was not a source of light, but a vortex of darkness, a perfect orb of black that seemed to absorb the very day around it. It pulsed slowly, not with a hum, but with a low, rhythmic thumping that vibrated through the soles of my feet. A heartbeat. This, I knew, was the heart of the silence. This was the thing that had chosen them. The moving shadows congregated around it, writhing and coiling at its base like worshippers at an altar. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, but I knew I had to get closer. As I took a step forward, the dark sphere seemed to pulse faster. I took another. The air grew cold, and the mark on my wrist burned. I was just a few feet away when it pulsed with a final, concussive beat, and the world vanished. Everything went to black. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my village anymore.